It's my pleasure to introduce our speakers for this session today, Jan Cuny and Chris Stephenson. Jan has been a program officer at the National Science Foundation, heading broadening participation in computing initiatives. And she has formerly worked as a faculty member in computer science at Purdue, the University of Massachusetts, the University of Oregon. Dr. Cuny has been involved in efforts to increase participation of women in computing research for many, many years, and has been acknowledged for doing such tremendous work in this area. Dr. Stephenson is the Executive Director of the Computer Science Teachers Association. Prior to that, she worked at the University of Toronto's Computing Systems Research Institute and the University of Waterloo's Mathematics and Computing Department. She's a former chair of the ACM K-12 Task Force and has done tremendous work in the field of K-12 computer science education. Most recently, she served as primary author of Ensuring Exemplary Teaching in an Essential Discipline. So I will leave it to our speakers.
Thank you, Fran. Good morning, everybody. This might be the first time ever that anyone was disappointed that their co-presenter showed up. Jan had to do the lion's work getting here, canceled flights in the middle of the night, last-minute arrivals. But if she hadn't made it here, I was going to ask you to imagine me as Jan, looking taller, thinner, and much better dressed. So I'm a little disappointed she's shown up, but I think it'll be good for the presentation. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the new APCS course, what's going on, CSTA's involvement in it, and what we're planning to do to, I think, do some very important things to move computer science education along in this country. One of the things that we know for sure is that the situation with regard to computer science education, especially as compared to other disciplines, is pretty grim. This chart shows the number of students writing the APCS courses in the sciences and mathematics, and you see all these wonderful lines trending upward, ever upward, and that really dull, sad line crawling across the bottom is us. That's computer science. So there's a little bit of an upward tip recently, but in terms of our relationship to the other sciences, we are not attracting students in the numbers that we would really hope to, and in the numbers that reflect the importance of the discipline in the long term. This is another kind of common slide that shows you where other areas where we're kind of struggling, and that is the rate of female participation in computer science. As you can see, the blue line is the past and the green line is the present, and we're down at the bottom not doing any better than we used to was. And just to show you that it's not just a gender issue, the situation by ethnic origin and race is exactly the same. We're in the bottom of the barrel when it comes to engagement of underrepresented students, and that's consistent for us across many years. So part of the reason that there has been a real focus on developing a new APCS is that it was very clear that we were falling short in terms of engaging the students that we wanted to engage. If we look at this as a purely demographic issue, the fastest growing percentages of the population are the least likely to have their children study computer science. It becomes a return on investment, a bottom line issue, not just for us as educators, but for us as citizens of a country that depend upon segments of the economy that are actually growing rather than shrinking. And we're not doing a good job in bringing students into the field. There was a growing feeling that the current computer science courses, at a few years back, the A and the AP, were serving as gatekeepers, keeping students out rather than attracting them. This is not a generally held belief, but there was a strong feeling among a number of people that this was the case. And the reasons they gave is that it was never meant to be a first course in computer science, which it is in many schools, that the focus is on Java and object-oriented programming, and so the learning curve has steepened and steepened and steepened. And that also it doesn't really demonstrate the breadth and the beauty and the excitement of computer science. And so a lot of this kind of thinking in the broader community, the broader computer science community, really gave rise to the call for some kind of better course for engaging students. So CSTA is really dedicated to supporting teachers who teach computer sciences and the other disciplines in K-12. And what's really clear is it's a return on investment for us in terms of our members as well. If the students aren't coming to the courses, the teachers don't have jobs. That's the bottom line. And it's not just about jobs, but sometimes that's the most personal issue for many of us. And so really we see the importance of a broader engagement of students as a social justice issue, as a jobs issue, as a national economic issue. It's just about one of the most important issues we're all working on together right now. And if you look at the broader goals for CSTA to promote a better understanding of computer science, well, part of that is getting students to want to take it and to love it. We're trying to develop resources, we're supporting standards, and in many ways the AP, whether it's meant to or not, is a national standard. It's a standard that's understood, that's clear, that's stated, and that's shared. We really want to support teacher excellence, and so getting teachers prepared to take the courses that the students want to take, that they see as imperative to their future, is very important to what we do. And I think most importantly, CSTA really wants to promote computer science as a field that is providing opportunities and engagements for all students, not just some students, but all students. We also know that anything that we try to do in computer science sits kind of in this framework of systemic issues that we all battle with constantly. We know that we are, in K-12, we are the pathway. We are the beginning of the pipeline. And everything shows us is that if they don't come in at the beginning, they don't show up at the end. And I have a note here that says this generation is not our generation. And I'm talking about my generation, where in my last year of high school, the first computer science course ever offered was offered. That was 1975 in my school. And I didn't take it because I was prepared to graduate and I was on my pathway. But most of my colleagues in the field are either my age or older, a lot of them teaching at the post-secondary level, and somewhere between our undergraduate years and our graduate years, we discovered this magical thing called the computer and fell madly in love. And we think, because we are really good, surprisingly for scientists, at magical thinking, that that will happen to the other students, to the new students, to the kids coming up now. And research is telling us that doesn't happen. If they don't know about computer science before they get to college, they will not take computer science courses. And even if they do, their chances of staying in and doing well in those courses is not very good. So what we have is this, what has often been applied is the incredibly shrinking pipeline. But we know within our own schools that there are intense pressures as well. There's a real pressure to have students take what's now called 4x4 for graduation requirements, which means they must take 4 math courses and they must take 4 science courses and they must take a whole lot of other courses, and any course that's an elective never gets selected because they simply do not have the time. And the other real important issue for us as K-12 educators is that until college admissions people take computer science education seriously for students who have courses coming out of the high school, the students themselves, the guidance counselors, and the administrators won't. This is a tough time to be a student going into university. The programs are very, very competitive. Our students are trying to get, every opportunity they can to make themselves look a little better to the folks who are looking at the applications for incoming students. And so somehow we have to address all of these issues that our students have to make ourselves more attractive to those students. So in order to do that, there's some things we need and some things we really don't need at all. We really need to continue to establish computer science as a relevant and interesting discipline with connections to other fields. If you saw the keynote this morning, that SPAF was showing you, the connection possibilities are limitless, but our students don't see that. And part of the reason is because we're down in the dirt trying to teach them the basics, and sometimes it's hard for us to take them from those very basics to the grand visions. But grand visions are what engage human beings because we're human, and we love those things on a grand scale. We really need a whole series of age and learning appropriate courses that students can take, not just one course that has to be the be-all and end-all for everyone. And what we don't need to do, surprisingly, is drag teachers in from other disciplines and turn them into computer science teachers. Now, lots of other teachers do come from other disciplines, but right now, we've got a really sad reality, is that across this country, teachers are losing their jobs, and often they're the computer science teachers, and even if they get to keep a job, the chances that it's a computer science teacher job in a district that's laying off 10,000 teachers is pretty slim. So these are kind of some of the systemic issues, and we really have to face them head on. So the commitment is not, the commitment to create a new course or a new vision is never enough. It's also the commitment to take the teachers where they are now and get them ready to be where they need to be when the new course comes online. So what's actually happening? Well, I think it's more than a year ago now that the College Board decided to eliminate the AB exam and leave only the APCS exam. And I think the truth, and everybody knows it was simply a financial decision. There weren't enough students taking the exam to cover the costs of the exams. And everybody, the College Board, everybody everywhere is looking at their bottom line these days. You can't support things that are incapable of supporting themselves. I also think, as I mentioned, there was a growing community of people who felt that the current course selections didn't meet the diversity of the community. And at the same time, the National Science Foundation was doing some really important work on and becoming a key player in this whole discussion about where K-12 computer science was, formally and informally, and if we were doing a good enough job. And as often unusual for institutions, they were actually putting a lot of money behind answering these questions. So I'm going to just kind of, for those of you unfamiliar, run you through who the players are in the game right now. So there's the APCS Development Committee, and they're really doing a stellar job of maintaining the current exam. They're keeping it going. They make suggestions for research. They write questions. They figure out what should be in it now that the AB exam doesn't exist. This group is still there and still working very hard. Then there's the APCS Development Commission, which is actually charged with creating the new, what is being called the APCS Principles course. So they're developing the key concepts, the supporting concepts, the practices, and developing the claims and evidence that will be used eventually to create the exams. And a lot of this, the work described here, has been done and is moving along to the next stage. And in fact, I'm on this commission, as is Owen Astrachan, who's sitting back there. So we've been part of this very important process. Then there is an advisory committee, and sometimes advisory committees are kind of just people who get called in and things get waved at them and they go away. And this is not that kind of advisory committee. This is really a group of thought leaders in the field of computer science education, both in K-12 and at the university and colleges, who've really been providing extensive feedback to the commission on the work that they've been doing. And they haven't been just rubber stamping everything. If they didn't like it, they sent it back to us and said, we don't like it, do a better job. And the commission has really been very active in trying to respond to those requests and suggestions, because we know we need the buy-in of the entire community. We could write the best APCS exam ever. Our students in K-12 could love it, but if the colleges and universities don't think it's worth giving credit or placement, it's all been for naught. So this really has had to be a team effort, and it really has been a team effort. And it's been surprisingly good in terms of how all the pieces and all the people in the different groups are trying hard to work together. So where the commission is now, they've developed and revised the big ideas, which Jan is going to talk about a little bit. They've revised the key concepts. They've developed the supporting concepts. They are in the process of revising the skills and practices document. And Owen, is that actually finished yet, the skills and practices document? No, and they're working on the claims and evidence, which is an enormous pile of work. I mean, last time I saw that document, I think it was about 70 pages, and there were a lot of duplications in it. So Owen and Amy Briggs, who are co-chairs of the commission, are working very hard on making that a sensible document. So as far as our role in this in CSTA, we really want to be part of this re-envisioning of computer science, because we think it's really important to have a sensible progression of courses that students can take. We want them to learn at levels that are appropriate for them, but we also really, really want them to be engaged in what they're learning and want to say to their friends, hey, this is a really cool course, and you guys should take this because it's great. And I think that we see our role on the commission, but in the broader community, is really kind of providing some expertise and guidance on both the development process through our work on the commission, but also the implementation process. What happens when the course is out there? How do teachers get trained? What kind of training is available? So I think that that's a really important role that we have to play, and we take that responsibility very seriously. And this is part of our goal to work on the standardization of the curriculum at the high school level. Because until we have a curriculum that everybody understands, it's very hard to claim that our curriculum is rigorous and that our students are learning. And it's hard for colleges and universities to know what incoming students actually know and can do. And that's really important for them because they don't want students to fail either. So this is an important part of the process of making sure that students are prepared for the courses that follow, but are also engaged in the courses that exist. And I think that the other big issue, and it's a big, hairy, thorny, scary issue, is the issue of teacher certification. And I know some of you have heard me speak about this before, but teacher certification with regard to computer science in this country is a complete and total mess. There are states with no certification. There are states with certification requirements that cannot be met. There are states with certification requirements that have absolutely nothing to do with the content of the discipline. And this is something we're going to keep working away on because it's part of making sure that teachers are prepared and that they feel comfortable in the roles they're asked to take. The other issue is really this issue of credit for graduation. This is huge. If there are going to be 4x4 requirements, computer science must qualify as a math or science for graduation purposes. Unfortunately, we're fighting the fight state by state. That's the bad news. The good news is we're winning. And one of the biggest questions is, should it be science or should it be math? And the answer is, we don't care. It needs to be something. It needs to count. And however your state has organized its curriculum and wherever you think it belongs, it must be a credit for graduation purposes. We're also looking at working with the colleges and universities to help them be more active partners in working with K-12 folks to get the students where they need to be. Because even colleges and universities are getting hard-pressed in these times, but they typically have more resources than a lot of the local schools. And they have great resources in terms of faculty who can be very helpful. And as far as CSTA is concerned, I mean, we're just prepared to just talk to people until they just wish we would shut up and go away about how important this issue is to address and that we have to do it now. There's a magical thing happening in this country right now where there's a real engagement about science and mathematics, what the so-called STEM. We need to be part of this discussion. Never have so many resources been placed in the K-12 environment dedicated to improving a particular area of education. We need to be at the table. We need to be somewhere we're going to get a piece of the pie. And a lot of CSTA's political advocacy is really aimed at working away on those issues at both the national level and at the state level. And basically, we just see it as our job to just keep pushing away and just to do the best job that we can to represent our members. So that's my little piece of it. I think you can see from that we're very committed to this new course. It's something we believe in. We think it's good. There's a lot of good people working on it. But ultimately, the bottom line is in the audience and how well we do at getting you ready for it and how actively you engage it and how forcefully you go to your administrators and say, we need this course. It's important and we have to have it for our students. And now I'm going to turn you over to Jan. Thank you.
Thanks. I think you'll see a lot of themes come back here when I talk because we work very closely with CSTA, they're great partners in this effort. So I'll talk about my concern is that we're missing a lot of students in high school. I went to a high school recently around Washington, D.C., a great high school, and I was talking about the AP course, and they said, well, we're not really interested in the AP course because we have 8 computer science courses, and 4 of them already carry college credit. Well, you know, there are schools like that, but that's not what's happening across the country. I spend also a lot of time in DC schools, and that is for sure not what's happening in DC schools. So I really want to make sure that high school computer science is available to all students across the country. So why high school? I work on the Broadening Participation in Computing program. We try and get more underrepresented minorities, women, persons with disabilities into computing, and we work from middle school all the way through the graduate faculty ranks. And I've been working on this for 5 years. But it's become increasingly clear to me that the problem is high school. That's the biggest hole. Right? We can get kids really excited about computing in middle school. We have such great things to dazzle them with. You know, we can do e-textiles and dancing robots, and we can do all sorts of stuff to get them really engaged. But then we drop them for 4 years in high school, and so that's all lost. We're also looking a lot at how to fix, NSF just ran this big program, CPATH, how to fix college education, which really does need to be fixed in many places. But if nobody shows up at the door, it doesn't matter. That will not have any lasting impact. And right now, not very many students are showing up at the door. So this is amazing data put out by the Higher Education Research Institute. And every year they ask college freshmen what they're intending to major in. And this is what's happened since 1982. So the top bar is is males. The bottom bar is females, and the blue is the combined total. So if you look particularly at what's happened to females, that's devastating. 0.3% of the females now say that they're interested in majoring in computer science. And so you might say, well, they just don't know what computer science is. Once they get there, they'll find out. Well, if you look at what happens, this is that same graph, but now it goes back to 75. So there was this peak that wasn't shown in the graph I showed you. This is the yellow line is the graph for everybody. The green line, and it's shifted over 4 years. So the data is really from 2006, and it shows up under 2010, because we tried to align it with the green line, which is the degrees granted 4 years later for that data. And so what it shows is that pretty good predictor of the degrees we're going to get is the number of students coming in. Now, we lose some students, we gain some students, but there aren't really big swings. So if we want to fix what's happening in college and have that be effective, we better make sure that we also have a pipeline of kids coming in. So why AP? If you know me, I'm not like a real fan of AP. I think there's 4 years of stuff we have to teach kids in high school, and there's probably another 4 years in college, and we shouldn't worry about overlapping them. But AP turns out to be a really key to this whole effort of changing what's going on in high school. First of all, as Chris has already said, it's very difficult in many schools. There's no way to get credit for college prep credit for a computer science course unless it's the AP course. So the AP is our one way in. It's attractive to students in schools. If you go to even low-income, struggling schools and tell them that you want to put an elective in, they're not very interested. But if you say, oh, it's an AP, well, then they're a little bit more interested. So it helps us. Students are a little bit more attracted to an AP course than a regular course, and schools are as well. We already have 2,000 College Board audited teachers for AP. And the real bottom line is that it's our only point of national leverage. Right? Every principal can do pretty much what they want with their curriculum. When we were talking recently to New York City, they're revising all their STEM courses, and we said, well, what about computer science? They said, oh, don't talk to us. This was one of the academic officers there. Don't talk to us. You need to talk to every principal. You know, and if you did that, if you went to every principal in the country and you got them to change their course, 2 years later you wouldn't know whether that was the same course or not, right? It could have degenerated back into teaching office tools. You don't know. So at least it's our single point of national leverage. It's a defined curriculum, and it's got some fidelity of replication. So I think it's the only way to make a change across the United States in one action. So as we said, as Chris said, we don't get very many students, right? We have 15,000 some odd students who took the CSA test, as versus, this was in 2008, as versus 222,000 who took calculus, 154,000 took bio, 108,000 took statistics. We're an order of magnitude off where we need to be with this course. It also had the worst gender balance of any of the AP tests. So we came in at 18% of the CSA test takers were women. It's not because women don't like hard courses and don't like math, because calculus had almost an even split, as did statistics, right? Computer science is way bad. We really lucked out for this statistic that they canceled the AB test, because that was down around 9%, right? The next highest one is around 19-20%, and that's physics, electricity, and magnetism. How can it possibly be that women are more interested in studying electricity and magnetism than all of computer science? Right? That can't be true. These students are missing a real understanding of what computer science has to offer. So what's wrong with the CSA? Well, it's not very appealing to many students. As you can see from this little picture down there, I view it as more of a roadblock to where we need to be than it should be. It's inaccessible to a lot of students. Chris said this, that it was very difficult for students to take as a first course. Also, why would they want to take it? Right? If you have a student who knows nothing about computing and you say, hey, you need to learn Java for a year, why would they do that? Right? And even once they did that, how would they know kind of all the other things that we wish they knew about computer science, how spectacular the applications were, how creative it was, how all sorts of things. It misses the breadth of application and the magic of computing. All right, so there was a report on math and science, a National Research Council report in 2002 on math and science in the U.S. high schools, and they said that AP courses should reflect what we know about how students learn, should build on students' transferable conceptual understanding and inquiry skills, should convey the content and unifying concepts of a discipline, and they should not be designed solely to replicate introductory college courses, which are not always that exemplary to start with. Right? So this was actually a call to action, and chemistry, biology, and physics are leading the way. So they were given a grant, an NSF grant in 2005, to completely redo the chemistry, biology, and physics courses. And we followed suit quickly after that, trying to get the College Board to do a similar kind of initiative for computer science. So as Chris described, the way that this course has come into being, we call it the CS Principles course, Computer Science Principles. And they start with, in designing this course, they have 9 big ideas. And then each of those has critical concepts and then enduring understandings under that. So it's this huge structure. Then they took all of the computational thinking skills and mapped them onto this structure. Then they produced evidence and claims for each one of these things. It's a 78-page document. It's an amazing thing for these people who have done. And so we owe a thanks to Owen and to Chris and to other people in the audience who were on that commission. It was a huge amount of work. So they came up with these, and after the first meeting with this advisory committee, where they were talking about these what the course was going to be like, I didn't go to the meeting, and I called up a friend of mine. I said, well, so what was it like? He said, oh, I loved it. I really loved it. Well, I loved 95% of it. The other 5% I'll live with. And I think that we have to really think about that as a community, because in computer science, we attack every proposal. I'm at the National Science Foundation, and I see what people do to proposals that I get. They just sit there and shred them, right? You go over to biology, they're not shredding each other's work. They're much more supportive and much more constructive in their criticisms. But in computer science, one of the reasons why I'm so delighted with what this advisory committee has done with the commission is that they've kind of all pulled together to produce something. We could have spent that whole year arguing over what language to use, right? But we didn't. So anyway, I think that they've done a great job. I'm going to go through really quickly the key principles. Computing is a creative human activity that engenders innovation and promotes exploration. Abstraction reduces information and detail to focus on concepts relevant to understanding and problem solving. Data and information facilitate the creation of knowledge. Algorithms are tools for developing and expressing solutions to computational problems. Programming is a creative process that produces computational artifacts. Digital systems, digital devices systems, and the networks that interconnect them enable and foster computational approaches to problem solving. Computing enables innovation in other fields, including science, social science, humanities, arts, medicine, engineering, and business. And that's it. Those are the big ideas. There were 7 of them. So, even as I read through these, when I read through them, I think, oh, they should change that word to this. They should change this to that. But I think what you'd have to say is, these are pretty much right on, right? This is what we want students to come away from, is a much broader appreciation of what computer science is as a field. So this course is designed to be engaging, accessible, inspiring, and rigorous. It's focused on the fundamental concepts of computing, or computational thinking, if you want to call them that. We hope that it's a target for course development for the years kindergarten through 9th grade, and that it's an impetus for college curriculum reform. So in fact, it turns out that College Board believes that their revamp of calculus in the early 90s changed fundamentally the way colleges were teaching calculus. And so we're hoping that we have some positive impact in college as well, and it will be available nationwide. So far this framework exists. I've just been talking with the College Board. I'm meeting with them on Thursday, hoping that this will become public in the next couple weeks. There is a website called csprinciples.org, and it has a white paper about the course, and hopefully it will have the framework very soon. We're starting pilots at the college level, and there was some criticism of why we didn't start at the high school level if this is a high school course, but there were a number of reasons for starting at the college course. It will not be an AP course unless 70 out of 100 sample departments signed on the dotted line, right? They have to sign saying they'll give credit or placement from it. So we have to sell this course to the college community before it even becomes an AP course. So we're piloting it at 5 universities, colleges, and each of them is working very closely with with an appointed high school teacher who's getting paid to be part of this effort. So each one of them is working very closely. We're doing it at University of Washington, at Berkeley, at UNC Charlotte, at UCSD, Metropolitan State College of Denver. So these are really interesting choices of schools. They're very different schools, and the courses are really different. So at UW, I think it's a relatively small course that's going to be taught with Python as their language. Berkeley is using their own version of Scratch, and it's a big course for non-majors. UNC Charlotte is basing the whole course around gaming. UCSD is using, I think, Alice, and they're doing it for 900 students. So they have 900 students enrolled in this course, and they're teaching it with the clicker technology, where you give assignments to groups and they work and they click in their answers and you have group discussions. So that should be really interesting. So I think that this is going to represent a range of courses. We're going to much more widely pilot it in 2011, and then it will be piloted at high schools, community colleges, and universities. And especially we're interested in partnerships of different institutions that might want to pilot it together and work on it together. All the materials from all of these pilots are going to be available. Everything will be on the web so that you can select the materials that you like, the presentation that you like, the language that you like. And the test will be available, we hope, in 2015. We're going under the assumption that the College Board's going to be able to come up with a test that is language independent, but that's very hard. And so in the end, we may lose on that one, and we may have to pick a language for the test. But we're hoping not. There are lots of, the obvious thing is to have a test in a couple different languages, but that makes it very hard to construct a test which meets the validity and reliability marks for AP, which is very high, very hard threshold to get over. So at any rate, we are working with the College Board and hope to have some interesting ideas about the test itself shortly. So what comes before this course? So in other subjects, you don't take AP Bio as your first biology course, right? So in many cases, students will want a first course. Now that course doesn't have to be nailed down in the same way that an AP course does, because really its goal is to get kids up to that level of sophistication that they could be successful in the AP course. So I think that there will be lots of different varieties of that course. And our goal is not to pick one and say, you must teach this course, but we're going to have a committee that's starting to work on developing a framework, not 78 pages of framework, but a more briefer kind of outline of what this course should cover and the kinds of things that kids should know at the end. And then what we're going to do is pick some exemplars around the country of people who are already teaching courses like this and make them all available on the web, so all the material is there and schools can choose what they want. This is the ECS team at LAUSD. And I know Joanna is here, Gail is here. So there are people here from that team who have been working on a course called Exploring Computer Science that's available, the curriculum, on the CSTA website. And it could be one of the exemplars of this. So we're going to have an introductory course. I'd like that introductory course to be the kind of course that every high school student should take, right? To have it be exciting, interesting, and to give them a really good framework for moving forward in, what will be a very computationally involved world. Then the CS Principles course, and then the College Board's course, the Java course. And I say possibly modified because I haven't discussed this with the College Board yet, but I really think that once they have this CS Principles behind them, that course could be really exciting, right? It could be an incredibly interesting projects-based course because the kids will start out knowing quite a bit. So our goal. When I first started this project, I thought our goal was to fund the College Board, right? This is pretty easy for me to do. So I thought, oh, this would be a great, I'll get them to agree to do this project, I'll write the check, and we'll be done. But then it was pointed out to me by people who know a lot more than I do about the high schools that really we need to get it taught by teachers who are prepared to teach this new course, and we need to get it into schools that are not necessarily teaching computer science now. So we have the CS10K project, which is our goal is to have the new curriculum taught in 10,000 schools by 10,000 well-prepared teachers by 2015. So we have curriculum development. I think we have a handle on that. I think that that's going to go really well. We have teacher preparation. We're going to have to get 10,000 teachers and maintain 10,000 teachers. We're going to have to look at in-service preparation of the teachers we already have. We're going to have to look at pre-service preparation, getting courses into ed schools on computing methods, getting things so that kids who are now in college can think about majoring in computing. We're also going to have to change the way colleges look at that. I taught at a university for 23 years, and I'm sad to say I never once mentioned to one of my students that they could be a high school teacher. And I never heard of any other faculty member ever doing that either. And it's not because I have anything against high school teachers. My husband was a high school teacher, right? It's just that it never occurred to me that that's what we were doing, was preparing kids to be high school teachers. We were preparing kids to go out into the, be part of the Microsoft or Intel or Googles of the world. And I think that we need to change that view in our colleges. And I'm working with some universities now on programs and looking at marketing to students. I think there are lots of students out there who get to be juniors in college and think, maybe I don't want to go sit and program in a cubicle. Maybe there's something else out there, and they're looking around, and we need to tap those students. We need to have ongoing professional development at a really high level. Computer science is a field that changes a lot. We have a lot of work to do to get people ready to teach these new courses, and we can't just assume that this is going to happen in a one-time workshop. It's really going to have to happen over time. We're going to have to enlist our master teachers in working with teachers who are coming up. And then we need to get into all of the schools, which has a whole lot of other political issues involved. So it's a huge, huge project that we're starting. It's something that's well beyond the capacity of NSF to do, especially I'm in the SCIES Directorate, which is the Computer Science Directorate, and their primary goal is research. So education is something that is part of our mission, but it's not the only thing in our mission. So we will never have enough money to do all of these things. And what we're hoping is that NSF will be able to catalyze this effort. We'll be able to get to build enough going that people believe that it's a viable, good thing to do, and people will want to invest, particularly foundations that have a lot of money. So to kind of build a public-private partnership around this. We're talking with the Department of Ed. We're talking with the Bureau of Labor, the Department of Labor. So we're talking with a bunch of different places to see where we can get funds. I'm talking to DOD about getting into the DODEA schools, all of the DOD schools. So we're talking about ways to build partnerships within the government, but we'll also need private funding as well to pull this whole thing off. So this is exactly the right time to be doing this. As Chris said, there is this huge wave of STEM money that's coming right now. Everybody's talking about redoing their STEM initiatives, to look at their STEM programs, to reorganize things, to spiff them up. We need to be part of that conversation. If we miss that conversation when the wave passes by, there will be nothing for a long time that's going to be invested in that area, right? Everything's happening now. 5 years from now will be way too late. So we really need to start aggressively pushing this effort forward. So The reason that I didn't just cancel my flight yesterday when it looked like it was going to be a gruesome ordeal was that I really wanted to talk to you and to enlist your support, because we're not going to do this without you. NSF has canceled all of the programs in their Education Workforce Cluster in Computing, which is where I'm from, the EWF cluster. And they have education, they have broadening participation, they have rolled everything that they've spent into one new portfolio of programs. And high school teachers are going to have a big role to play in that. All right, so I would encourage you to send me email. I'll put my email address up at the end, to send me email to get on our list, so we'll send updates about what's going on and stuff. I'd encourage you to start looking for partners. Those of you who know my programs that I've run before, I really like partnerships, I like collaboration, I like things that are going on with a group of, like a critical mass of people, so that they can feed off each other and make it better than it was. So I will give you updates on what we're doing. I can't say more because NSF has a very strict policy about not releasing the details of anything until it's fully public, which is fair, right? You don't want one group to get a head start on the other groups. But so we will be announcing something, I think, at the very end of the summer, which will be quite exciting. So why does this page have all these lines all over it? I don't know. Ignore the lines. So there are two other things that you can do. One thing you can do is to get involved in this effort, and I will keep you, if you're interested, updated on how to do that. The other is you can help us change the storyline, right? Our students do not have good images of what it is to be a computer science. So these were pictures from a project that Stanford did, some people from Stanford did in Bermuda. And before they worked with the students, they asked them to draw computer scientists. And this is what they drew. And I asked a group of 7th graders in DC to draw computer scientists for me recently. Every one of them had a white lab coat on. I'm saying, we don't get messy. We don't need a lab coat, But they all had pocket protectors, they all had glasses, and they all had kind of unattractive hairdos. So we need to change that perception of students. Once this course in Stanford finished, they asked, this was an all-girls school, they asked what the computer science looked like, and this was one of the pictures that they got. So this is cool. This is what we need to do, is to convince our kids that it is not for weirdo-looking geeks. It's a field that is exciting and creative, and they should be part of it. The other thing I wanted to point out now, see, Chris is saying, where did these slides come from? See, I snuck my computer in here so I could stick in a couple extra slides. So there's two efforts that I wanted to acquaint you with. The first is .diva. So .diva was a project that we funded to work with WGBH, and they did an extensive marketing survey to find out, and did surveys. They talked to girls, they piloted in schools to find out what messages girls liked, and they came up with this .diva website that you can point your students at. It's just starting. I think it needs some improvements here and there, but it's a really great idea. And it's .diva is where young women with the power and passion to make a difference, we believe in the potential of computing to build a better world. So this is one of their pictures that says .divas change the world. We develop medical software that saves lives and design programs that track the environment to help protect our planet. .divas are creative. We bring our imaginations we use our imaginations to create music apps, can barely read this, movie animations, and fashion design software. And .divas connect people. We designed social media to bring people together for friendships, entertainment, or to mobilize around a great cause. So these are messages that girls like. And there's no stretch that these are things that computer scientists do. And we need to make sure that girls know that. There's this what's your passion thing here, and they have all these things, and when you click on it, it tells them things that high school kids could do in those arenas using computing. The final thing that I want to just briefly mention that you could do is join National Lab Day. How many here have heard of National Lab Day? Oh, this is so warming to my heart, because we've been trying to push National Lab Day for a year, and we have this real burden in the name, right? Because it has nothing to do with the national labs. It doesn't even really have to do with labs as we think of them, and it's not a day. So this name has been really hard to overcome. I tell you, I've been working on overcoming the name for a year, and I think that we've now hired a company to build us a new image. I'm hoping. See, the first thing we have to say on our website, oh, it's not just a day. Forget the day part. Anyway, National Lab Day is think of it as a match.com for scientists and teachers, where scientists is broadly defined to be professionals, graduate students, undergraduates, to connect them with teachers, to help the teachers in various ways. They could help with curriculum. They could help with chaperoning a field trip. They could help with designing projects. They could help with science fairs. They can help with all sorts of things. This is a case where this is a national STEM effort. It's part of the presidential Educate to Innovate program. It's happening across the country. It's one of the few times where we have been invited to a STEM event, right? We're invited to the dance and we're not going, right? There's no computer scientists. I think this year, the projects that are listed, they come and go because they expire, right? You do a project, it's over, it comes down. So the projects that teachers have posted, they posted close to 2,000 altogether this year, and we had 26. It's pathetic. It's really pathetic. So we need to get teachers aware of this. You can get help in your classrooms, right? You could have undergraduates come in during labs to just walk around the room and help kids with their programs. You could have them come in and talk. We brought some of the Spellbots. I don't know if you've seen them. These are these girls from Spelman College who do these dancing robots that play soccer. We brought them to some middle schools around D.C. The kids were shrieking. They were so excited about this. There was one room with 300 kids. At the end, they said, how many of you want to learn to program this year? And every kid raised his hand. They were all excited about this. So you can do things like that. You could bring kids from a local college. You could bring professionals in to talk about what their careers are. Pick interesting professionals, right? Not everybody works in a little cubicle and just programs all the time. A lot of people do, really interesting things that students would appreciate. And even the people who work in cubicles all the time, lots of them are doing really meaningful things and would be really passionate in coming and talking to your kids. So go look at nationallabday.org. Sign up. It's really painless. Post a project. If you need money for your project, they'll post it over on Donors Choose. A lot of the teachers who did that have gotten a lot of stuff. One teacher had a special ed class, wanted to have Kindles for all of her students. So you can only post like $500. So she posted like a Kindle or two, and she did it over and over again. She's now got her whole class has Kindles. This is cool. So I think that there's a lot that we can do with National Lab Day if we're creative to help in computer science. And the good thing about it would be the principal of your school would see, we're doing a STEM thing and computer science is part of it. And parents would see, this is a STEM project and computer science is there. So we need to show up to dances like this because it gets us as part of the flow. It gets us a place in that group. So thank you very much for listening. There's my email. I'd be happy to talk to you about anything that I've mentioned and to talk about and to get you involved in this course, especially in the next year when we start doing more pilots. So send me email and I'll put you on our list.
So we've got some time for questions. I just wanted to mention something else. Josh, are you here? Josh is actually a high school teacher who's involved in the pilots, and he's got some stuff. So if you're really interested in kind of what the pilots are doing and what's happening, talk to Josh at lunch. He's got some very interesting things. So just stand up, Josh, so everybody can see you. Yay, Josh. So are there any questions? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Useful, very big impediment to returning or becoming a teacher.
Yes, in fact, the one in my bio, they mentioned a report that I had been a co-author on, and it actually is a framework for certification of teachers. And one of the areas is people coming in from other disciplines and exactly what they need and don't need. So it's called Ensuring Exemplary Teaching in an Essential Discipline, and it's on our website. And we've been giving that out as much as possible to teacher education organizations, faculties of education. The problem is is it's a really hard lift because they're disappearing. In fact, we're working with Jen Yates from Nova University in Florida, who's the last university preparing computer science teachers in the whole state, and she's hanging on by her fingernails. So we're doing kind of both the advocacy work and creating the framework work.
What about coming from programming itself?
Yeah, that's part of it. So if you look at the framework, you can see that it's got a list of what the requirements are. And there's actually 4 levels of requirements. Pre-service teachers who are just coming in fresh, teachers who are already teaching a computer science course, teachers who are transitioning from another discipline to a computer science course, and people coming in from industry. And we look at both what are the educational requirements they should have in terms of education courses, and what are the computer science requirements they should have in terms, because it's different all over, and as you so well state, often it's crazy making. Ellen.
I think it's fantastic what you're doing, and I'm really excited about it. I'm having trouble understanding what questions might be on the AP test for computer science principles course. Could you give some ideas?
I can't, because they don't exist yet. And I don't just want to make things up. I mean, what I can tell you is that the claims and evidence document, when it's available, will be extremely detailed. And a lot of computer scientists will start seeing words in it that make them feel warm and fuzzy, like recursion and, loops and things like that. So we're not at that stage yet, and we don't know. And I might have some ideas about it, but I don't want to prejudice it. But I think they're really looking at 2 issues. What do students need to know, and how the test will actually ensure that students need to know that. But we're not there yet. Yeah.
I'm envisioning a possible trial of this, a pilot, either officially or unofficially, that I already teach the AP Comp Sci A class. What do you see in terms of sequencing or combining? Like for calculus, for instance, you can take the A, B, or the BC. In other science fields, you can take multiple AP exams in the same year. So if I have some bright students, I'm trying out a pilot, what do you envision me doing with the pilot material and the current AP Comp Sci A? Can I have some students try both in the same year? They're really bright.
Why not?
Should I have some students all put them all together in the same class and have some with one and some with the other? Or what would be some recommendations?
I don't know if I really have recommendations for that. I don't see them as easily combining. I think they're really discrete. Their approaches are very different. I know a lot of teachers who are teaching lots of courses in combined classrooms, and the kids are working on different things at different times. Owen, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think that if you're going to end up doing something that is exciting to the students in your class, that's good. And so if you can figure out a way of combining those, then you should do it. I think it's kind of like, if more people are doing it, yeah, that's a good idea.
It's mostly about enrollments that if I try to offer a second class as opposed to my first class, and then the 20 students that would be in the first class that would run, I split them in half and I got 10 and 10, now neither of them run. Chris?
I think one of the things that's tough, or at least moving for me, is visualizing what the new course might look like. And so if you actually saw what a pilot might look like and the kinds of things that they're trying to get at, I think that'll probably answer your question there then.
Yeah, and as Jan mentioned, the pilots are putting all of their materials on the website, so it's very accessible. There was a question right at the front here, somebody.
I just wanted you to repeat the name.
Oh, exemplary teaching in an essential discipline, and it's on the CSTA website. And it's the red cover with the apple on it. That's the oh, look, Josh has one in his hand. Yes.
If I want to get advanced credit in art, or present a portfolio of my artistic creation. In music, I audition. So, has the question ever been considered, is this the wrong paradigm for even determining who should get advanced placement? Should it be a test like mathematics or physics, or should it be students presenting what they've done with appropriate certification by the teacher that they actually did it?
Yes. There has been deep and heartfelt discussion of this among the members of the commission. And the issue of portfolio comes up consistently. We don't know where it's going to go. We fall under the auspices of the College Board, which has very strict rules about their tests, but we would not be the first discipline that went to a portfolio-based assessment. I don't know how likely it is to happen, if at all, but it's definitely something that's been discussed. And I think it's like the language issue. We have an idealized view of how we want it to be. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out to be. But the only way I can answer your question is, yes, it's been discussed and passionately.
It's on the table.
You mentioned that in order for the College Board to go forward with this, about 70% of the colleges are going to have to be convinced that they will accept credit.
So it's 70 out of a sample size of 150.
Okay. What approach are you taking to get the colleges to accept this?
Besides yelling at people?
So we have a great set of ambassadors because we already have these 35 people who, probably 30, who are college faculty who have been really committed to developing this course. Larry Snyder, has been on the advisory committee and is running one of the pilots at UW, has taken on the charge of leading this. The College Board has agreed. The way they normally do this is they have a meeting or they send out a survey to departments. And what they're going to do for computer science is a little bit different. We're going to have a letter, and we're going to come up with these 150 schools, which we'll have by the end of this week. The 150 schools, 70 of them have to sign this letter. And we have a relatively large window of time where they have to sign it, although the sooner they sign it, the better in terms of fundraising, because then the sooner we'll have an endorsed AP course. I was really sad that we don't have this for this meeting, because we have all of the CS department chairs are meeting next week in Utah, and we have an unbelievably cool, snazzy little 3x3 fan-fold thing that folds out that talks about why they need to endorse this course. It's very cool. So I think we have a really good campaign to get that. I have no doubts that we will come up with those signatures. But, it's a little unnerving that it's not officially sanctioned as a course yet. We're hoping that in the next couple of months it will be.
Okay. And just to follow up, presumably the departments that say they'll accept credit are in turn going to have some college level course that the students actually get credit for.
Yes. So they could say that the students just get credit, right? You get 3 credits and they're amorphous. College Board's not real happy with that. They really want it to be credit for an existing course. And that's one of the reasons why we started these pilots at the college level. We started them at kind of thought leader schools in the hopes that other schools would follow. And I've had a number of colleges that are interested in signing up already, a number of organizations of community colleges that are interested in signing up for the next set of pilots. So I think that there will be actually a lot of colleges that are interested in this particular course. So I've been told that we need to call this quits. It's lunchtime, but I can talk about this, and Chris can talk about this, and Owen and Gail and many other people here would be happy to talk till your eyes roll back, as Chris says.